Hello, everyone. Today we are going to be looking at the Torah portion, Vayishlach, which means, and he sent. So it's from Genesis 32:3 through 36:43. So let's get started. Got it. Okay, so we start off with looking at what different sages have said about the particular scripture, the very first verse, really. Okay, so Rashi says from Genesis 32:4, where it says, Jacob sent messengers ahead to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, in the country of Edom. So the word there is malachim, which is actually angels, and Jacob sent messengers is actually, and Jacob sent angels. And, in Genesis Rabbah 75:4, that is what they are saying that it means, that he sent angels ahead of him. So I want us to think about last week's Torah portion. And last week's Torah portion, it said that the angels, and got it. Okay. That there were, we've seen, sorry, let me go back. So in every story, we're seeing these angels, okay? The angels come to Abraham. The angels go in to Sodom and Gomorrah, okay? So in this, we're saying, okay, Jacob sent angels. Jacob sent messengers. Sforno says, in order to find out, he sent these angels in order to find out Esau's state of mind concerning Jacob. Okay, it's kind of like spying out the situation. Here, let me send these angels ahead so that we can know, exactly what Esau's state of mind is towards Jacob. So Ramban says, this section was written in order to inform us that the Holy One, blessed be he, delivered his servant Jacob, and he redeemed him from the hand of him that is stronger than he. And he sent an angel and saved him in order to further teach us that Jacob did not place his trust in his righteousness. He didn't trust in himself, okay, in his own righteousness. He sent the angels out, okay, because he couldn't trust his own righteousness, okay? And he strove for delivery with all of his might. There is yet in this section a hint for future generations, for everything that happened to our father, Jacob, with his brother Esau, will constantly occur to us, Israel, with Esau's children. And it is proper for us to adhere to the way of the righteous by preparing ourselves in the three things for which he prepared himself. He prayed, so that's why I have that guy up, on the top, kneeling down, he's praying. He prayed and he sent a gift. He sent him a present. And at the same time, he's also preparing for battle, for rescue of methods of warfare, to flee and to be saved. So our rabbis have already derived this hint from this section. So that's what Ramban says. It's like he sends the angels, but it's all part of his plan. It's like, look, I'm going to pray, I'm going to send these angels, and I'm also going to give him a gift, because remember, he gives Esau a gift. And the last thing is, prepare for battle, prepare for warfare. And if we have to, we'll flee. Or Hahaim, okay, says the midrash we quoted above refers to those angels as being garbed in fiery garments, riding horses of fire. And I immediately thought about Elijah and the prophet and the chariot of fire that came and took them. And so I got this picture off the internet. Well, obviously both of them, but I just thought that it was amazing that's what or Hahaim says, that the angels were actually like clothed in fire, and the horses that they rode on were also of fire. So I thought that was really interesting. So the angels were sent before you and as your rear guard. That's what it says. So Psalm 91:11 says, for he will give command of his angels to you to look after you wherever you will go. Isaiah 58:8 says, then shall your light burst through like the dawn, and your healing spring up quickly. Your vindicator will march before you. The presence of God shall be your rear guard. So it's this constant theme of the angels going before, but the angels are like God, basically. And it's the angels are going before, but they're also the rear guard. Psalm 85:13 says, righteousness shall go before him and shall set us in the way of his steps. So there's these angels, the theme of the angels going before, but also protecting behind. Oops, sorry. So the angel of God in Exodus 14:19, the angel of God, which went before the camp when the camp was leaving Egypt, okay, the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them, and the pillar of the cloud went before them, before their face, and stood behind them, again, in front and behind. Exodus 23:20, behold, I'm going to send an angel before you to guard you along the way and bring you into a place which I have prepared. Psalm 3:3, but you, Lord, are the shield around me, my glory, and the one who lifts my head. And I want to make a point about this. The shield there, Michael did a piece, and I probably should have put it in here, but the shield there is not this big giant shield that we can hide behind. It's actually a small shield, okay? Yet, that's what's going to protect us, because that shield is just going all around. It's in front when we need it in front. It's behind when we need it behind, to the sides, wherever we need that shield, which is the Lord, is there to protect us from whatever angle. But like I said, so amazing, because that particular shield that is spoken of there in the Hebrew, it describes it. It's a small shield. It's not a big shield. So Malachim, the word Malachim means angels. One of the things that I read that I thought was just so amazing this week was, it says that the Sadiqim, the righteous ones are called Malachim. Righteous ones are called angels. They belong to this group because the Sadiq, Gamor, is as dedicated as an angel. They're as dedicated as an angel to the Lord, to the Lord's will, the Lord's mission, the Lord's desire. The celestial beings do not have an urge to violate God's commands, God's instructions. A Sadiq Gamor also has no urge for sin. In the final prophetic work, Malachi 2:7 says, the lips of the priest preserve wisdom, and Torah is sought from his mouth. For he is an angel, a malach of God, the Lord of hosts. Literally, malach means messenger. We are all God's messengers, sent to accomplish the mission of living a life with God, observing his commandments, learning his Torah, and thus sanctifying his world. Unfortunately, we too often ignore our calling. A true Sadiq, a true righteous one, lives with a constant awareness of mission. What does God require of you? And as a result, Malachi named him a malach, a constant messenger. So I want you to, just start getting that in your head, that a righteous person is considered like an angel, because it's like, you know what? All I care about is doing God's will. All I care about is, following through on the mission that God has for me to do. All I care about is Torah. All I care about is learning his ways and observing his ways and doing his things and sharing them with others. So in the story, before all of this happens, before the angel is sent, Jacob wrestles. Okay, he's left alone and he wrestles with, I'll read it just as it. Jacob was left alone and a figure wrestled with him until the break of dawn. So some things you read, it says he's an angel. Some things say it was God himself that he wrestled with. But the thing is, here's where the whole idea of an angel wrestling, an angel coming before, okay, comes in to Jacob's story, okay? And then we'll see that after he's fought, now he sends out the angels, okay? So I want you to think first, the very first thing that happens is he's wrestling with the angel, or wrestling with God, right? So he fights with God or the angel at Yabok, which means he will empty or emptying. And what I saw in that is that Jacob is kind of empty at this point. He's got fear. He has fear. He doesn't know what to expect of his brother. He has no idea, is he okay with me? Is he not okay? Is he going to want to go to war? Is he not going to want to go to war? Is he going to take from me? Is he going to still be angry with me because I got the blessing and he didn't? So there's just this struggle going on within him. Okay. And then he ends up fighting with God. All this struggle is taking place within him. And then he ends up fighting or wrestling with the angel or with God. Hizkuni says, pertaining to Genesis 32:26, the angel succeeded to injure Yaakov despite God's assurance to him that, quote, I will protect you wherever you go. This is what God is telling Jacob. I'm going to protect you. But Yaakov, even though he heard that, he's not really feeling it. He's afraid. He's not trusting God. So because Yaakov allowed himself to be frightened of Esau, frightened of that, the anger, the spirit, whatever it is, because he's frightened of that, despite God's assurance that, hey, I'm going to be with you no matter what. So it's looked at by Hiskuni as just a lack of faith in God's promise. So at this point, we need to look at ourselves, okay? And we have to see those areas in our life that God tries to give us assurance and say, it's going to be okay. I'm with you. I'm taking care of you. I'm leading you through this. I told you to walk in this place. I have given you this mission. You can do it. I'm with you. I'm not leaving you. I'm going to be in front of you, and I'm going to be behind you, and I'm going to be protecting you. I'm there for you. And then that doubt comes in. And then, a little whisper, somebody says something, and suddenly that doubt starts coming in, and then the fear starts coming in, because we've gotten our eyes off of what God wants from us, of what God has told us is going to happen, and how he's going to help us walk through that event. So it's a lack of faith, you're saying. So let's talk about that fighting of the fear. So Rashi's grandson, Rashbam, gives an extraordinary interpretation of Jacob's wrestling match. Okay. Fearing the confrontation with Esau, Jacob wanted to run away. Just reading that hit home for me. There's so many times that something happens. It's just like, I just want to get away from this situation. I just want to run. I don't want to deal with it. Let me just get out of this situation. But it comes down to fear. It's like, I don't want to deal with it. That fear of confrontation, that fear of the fight, the struggle, okay, that wrestling. So he wanted to run away, and God sent an angel to wrestle with him, to stop him doing so. On this reading, God was teaching Jacob how to wrestle with his fears and defeat them. Who is strong? Asked Ben Zoma. No one who can defeat his enemies, but one who masters his impulses. Ben Zoma's proof text was a verse from Proverbs 16:32. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, than the strong ones. He who rules over his spirit is stronger, is mightier than he who physically conquers a city. So the strength that we all need to aspire to is that inner strength and that ability to hear God and really take his word, at face value, that God's saying, I'm there with you, I'm protecting you, you can do this. And that makes us a stronger person when we can walk in the faith of knowing that God is there. It's not about the physicality, like, oh yeah, I can deal with this. No, we can be physically broken and unable, to maybe do something, but spiritually, we can be strong, and we can know how to walk, where to walk, what to say, how to say it, when to keep our mouth shut. Because even in that, there is a strength when we keep our mouth shut. If it is not, part of God's plan. So here I put, fear not. So in Psalm 118:6, it says, the Lord is with me. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? What can man do to me? Okay, so man can kill us. Okay, yeah, that's possible. But the thing is, it can't touch your spirit. And it can't touch that relationship that we have with God. and it can't affect the very fact that we know who our creator is and we know where we're going. And so no matter what happens, we keep our eye on that prize of what God, has called us to. So Psalm 27:1 says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is my stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" So God's constantly telling us and telling David and telling all of these, all these Psalms that we read, don't be afraid. I'm here. Don't be afraid. And basically, that was the wrestling that Jacob did. It's like, I'm afraid. Well, this is how you're going to fight it. Was there actually an angel there? Was there not an angel there? He was fighting that inner fear that he had. And yes, we know that there was an angel there. Did he actually see the angel? Was the angel physically present? He fought, and it was like he was fighting himself. He was fighting that fear within him to deal with his brother. So after this fight, Jacob's name is changed. Jacob becomes Israel. And the place is called Penuel because he says, I've seen the face of God. The face of God, because Jacob fought with God face to face. So he fought with God, and he fought with God face to face. So Jacob's name is changed to Israel. And what does Israel mean? It's like he will be a prince of God, or he wrestles or struggles with God. Sar, okay, the Shin and the Resh, okay, Sar means chief or ruler. And you all know what Yashar means, okay? So Yashar is upright or straight. So you could actually look at the word Israel as Yashar El, straight to God or upright of God. There's an interesting little twist that Shin and the Resh could also, because remember, there's no vowels, that Shin and that Resh could also stand for the word shore, which means umbilical cord. And it was as if Jacob was reborn. Okay. So it's like shore. He's reborn into Israel at the wrestling with God, at his struggling, at his striving with God. Okay. He's fighting that umbilical cord to like, okay, I can go, I can do it now, and I'm getting reborn. The umbilical cord's going to be removed, and I'm going to walk with you, Lord. I'm going to do it without you having to lead me and guide me. I'm going to have not that we don't want him leading and guiding. Of course, we want him leading and guiding. What I'm saying is, I don't have to have the umbilical cord. Okay. I can walk now upright before you and do the things because I understand your Torah. I understand your commandments. I understand your ways. I understand your festivals, and I get to walk with you. So I really want you to hold on to this. I know we've seen it before as he will be prince with God or he struggles with God, but I want you to start thinking of Israel, then the word Israel as Yashar El, Israel as Yashar El, straight to God, upright of God, upright with God, okay, or upright before God. So God changed his name, and it happens, still today. Okay. God changes a person's name when their calling or their direction or their character has changed. Okay. So here was Jacob, which was like a heel catcher or supplanter, or, he would deceive. He would take. And now he's upright before God. He's struggled with God. He's fought with God. Okay. And I know it's not common to hear, wrestling with God or fighting with God, but actually we do it all the time. We just don't call it that. We don't call it I'm wrestling with God. It's oh, I'm just kind of struggling with this. Oh, I have a hard time with this, whatever, whatever words you want to use. But the fact of the matter is we're struggling, we're wrestling. And it's kind of like that is what, as Jews, that is what we do. We're wrestling, we're struggling. It's like, oh man, I just read this in the scripture and I'm having a really hard time with this. I've done that. I'm sure you all have done that. I mean, there's been some scriptures that I'm just going, what? I don't get it. So you study and you study some more and you study some more. And sometimes, God puts somebody in your pathway that all of a sudden they say something. It's like, I get it. I understand now. So it's kind of like our wrestling is over because, we kind of understood what was going on. But the wrestling that starts is usually something within ourselves. It's usually that wrestling that takes place within ourselves. And it usually has to do with fear. It really does. Because, the fear of, I don't know if I agree with this. I don't know if it's going to take me off the path that I'm on. Is that what God really meant? So it's that struggling, and there's that fear, like, because we want to walk accurately with God. So, there is that, I want to say apprehension. Okay. But after you've studied, you're just like, oh, I see it. Oh, I understand. So we all wrestle. We all wrestle with God. So Jacob and Esau finally meet. Okay. They finally come together. And this, like I said, this is after, Jacob had to deal with being afraid. So it says in Genesis 32:8, Yaakov was greatly frightened. In his anxiety, he divided the people with him, and the flocks and the herds and the camels into two camps. Then it says, Jacob bowed 7 times. He's like submitting, he's honoring Esau with his 400 men coming. Radak says, when Esau saw Yaakov had humbled himself so much before him, he forgave what he had done to him, and his sense of compassion was stirred. Genesis 33:4 says, Esau ran to greet him. He embraced him, and falling on his neck, he kissed him, and they wept. Well, therein, the word wept there is like in grief, but it's also like in humiliation. It could be joy also, but it's like weeping bitterly. I don't know if you've ever had a relationship that there was a falling out, or there was, some kind of situation where the relationship was broken, and you come back together, and before any words are spoken, all you can do is just hug that person and just hold them and just love them and just, oh, thank God I have this relationship again. And that's basically what they were doing. Okay, they were just holding each other like, God, brother, I've missed you. I've missed you. So Proverbs 27:6, the word, I got to go back, that word kiss, it's really interesting because it says he kissed him, like he kissed him, he falls on his neck and he kissed him. The only other time that word kiss is used in the same sense is in Proverbs 27:6. It says, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. So here they are hugging each other and they're crying and they're weeping. But is it real? Is it real? For Jacob, he's full of fear, and he's just thankful that, there's no war going to happen or there's nothing bad that's happening. And so that's a positive for him. But is it real? And this word kiss, the yishakehu, there it is, it's the top. It's so weird because in the Hebrew, it's written with all those dots at the top. If you can see it, I hope you all can see it. There's all those dots at the top. And I read so many things about that, and there was not like a uniform, this is what it means. This is what it's saying. No, nobody could really say why it was like that. But it's just really interesting how it has all of those dots at the top. I mean, I'm sure maybe some of that could be cancellation, but I don't think so, because none of them really said anything about that. But it is looked at as I don't know if it was so sincere. So at this point, the two brothers, have just come together. And what does Esau say? Hey, come with me to Seir. Come with me to Seir. And Jacob's like, no, 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 no. You know what? You've got so much stuff. I've got so much stuff. I have to really tend to my family, and I've got a big group that I've got to take care of. Well, this is really interesting because I put here Seir or Sukkot, because at the very beginning, the very first verse that we read, it said that Esau was from the land of Seir and Edom, right? So Seir is a hairy goat. Okay, it's a hairy goat. When the Torah describes Esau and Edom, Seir, they're completely covered with hair. And it alludes to his being as full of sin as a fur coat is full of hair, according to Rabbi Isaiah Horowitz. So then there's this, go to Seir, which is like a hairy, a hairy goat, hairy full of sin, okay? Or Sukkot, which is the booth, a temporary dwelling. And the sukkah, we know, alludes to our physical body. It's temporary, it's earthly, it's simple. And during Sukkot, we're recognizing how temporal, our physical bodies are. And what do? We're looking towards the resurrection. We're looking towards the kingdom, and the Lord being in the kingdom and us being with the Lord in the kingdom. This is all temporary. This is all going to pass. So, do we want to be like Esau that goes to Seir, to the hairy goat, to the fur covered in sin? Or do we want the temporal, simple things, that God, has provided? So, Seirim or faith in God, just like, Seir or Sukkot. Well, now it's Seirim or faith in God. The Seirim, or the goat demons, they were called the goat demons, which is usually translated as devils. It literally denotes hairy or shaggy goats, and then goat-like deities or demons. They were demons of fear, okay? And In Leviticus 17:7, a Se'irim, the hairy goat demon, it ends up being a satyr. Okay. And Rabbi Avraham ibn Israel wrote that the demons are so-called Se'irim, a word which is connected with Se'irah, meaning hair, because on seeing them, a person's hairs just stood up, okay, on his body, because they were so scared of what they were seeing. In Isaiah 34:14, it says, the desert creatures will meet with the wolves. The hairy goat, the Seir, also will cry to its kind. Yes, the night monster or the night demon, some of the verses say, some of the scriptures say, which is Lilith, the night demon, will settle there and will find herself a resting place. So this is from the text of the Dead Sea Scrolls, describe the nether regions as full of Se'irim. So it's like, I guess you could say hell, okay? The nether regions is full of goat demons. And it's straight out of a book called How the Devil Got His Hooves and Horns, the origins of the motif and the implied demonology of 3 Baruch. So I just thought that was really interesting that, you know, that whole definition, I guess you could say, of the hairy goat demon, the satyr, how it was way back in the Dead Sea Scrolls. That it's not something that I guess is new to the study of the scriptures. So I leave you with this. Okay. Trust in the Lord. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Straight. We're back to straight. Yashar. To be right, to be straight, to be level, to be upright, to be just, to be lawful, to be smooth, to be direct, be gentle, make easy, manageable, righteously, free from obstacles, successful in an ethical sense. Read it again. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your paths ethical. He'll make your paths gentle. He'll make your paths lawful. He'll make your paths smooth. He'll make your paths manageable. He'll make your paths just and lawful and straight and level. So Jacob had fear, and it's understandable. We can understand it because we all have fear and we all have to deal with that. And he was afraid of his brother because that fear was of the unknown. How's he going to react? Is he going to hurt me? Is he going to hurt my wives? Is he going to hurt my kids? Is he going to kill me? Is he going to take from me? What's going to happen? That all those crazy thoughts that can possibly run through our head are the very things that introduce something that isn't God's voice. So we have to go back and listen to what God said. Walk this path, learn my Torah, stay true to that path, stay on it, stick to it. I know it's hard, but you can do it. And that trust in knowing that this is the path that God has put you on. And don't try to lean on your own understanding, your own thoughts of, oh, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And, you know, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I think women tend to do that more than men, that we as women tend to lean on our own understanding women go with emotions more, and men tend to go more with facts. This is what I see, this is how it is. Whereas women tend to be more emotional, and what if this happens, and what if this happens, and it's like all of those what ifs. We need to just stop and acknowledge that God has put us on that path, and he is going to make our paths yashar, as long as we are trying to be Yisrael, Yasharel. So that's all I have for you today.